Can narcissists be manipulated by the other narcissists and start to become a victim? Narcissist loves to be a victim. So yeah, that would be like different, nuancy, but yes, that could happen. What is their most fear? Vulnerability, honesty, shame, guilt. Do they change? No one can change if they're incapable of being honest. Is there anything a partner can do to initiate self-honesty and change? Typically leave. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to force this person to change, grow, or develop. You can only work on you. And if they do not choose to actually rise and grow and be honest, nothing's going to change. Why are they okay with not having a relationship with their teen kids? Because they don't care about their teen kids. All they care about is their image and their mask. After 8 months of no contact, when running into one another, one another always looks evil. Why? Might be telling you something there. Why does the narcissist always say you have to stop living in the past when you're bringing up a problem? Because they don't want to be accountable for the problem. They want to keep moving on, so you don't acknowledge anymore. So you kind of discount it and keep moving on so you can keep doing the same thing. Do they in their heart of hearts know they're lying, or do they believe their lies are reality? Yes. They know they're lying, and they've convinced themselves to believe in the reality because it's a lot easier to blame you than it is to deal with it themselves. Mine has been saying manipulated. So should I be worried? I do not understand that. I'm sorry. Why are they okay? Oh yeah, I read that. My narcissist is done messing with me. I didn't know it's a compliment because he knows I don't fall for his shit anymore. Awesome. Yeah, I would make sure he doesn't have access to you. My biggest problem was his shift, blame, and projecting. It was the worst. I stopped defending myself. Yeah. A lot of times that's the hardest, when the narcissist is blaming you, especially we see this in smear campaigns. If you're getting smeared by a narcissist, ignore it. Like, that's really what they want. They want a reaction. Why is he stalking me with his new supply? Power and control. Block, ghost, go no contact. Make sure he doesn't have access to you. That's a big piece. Oh, there's a lemonade. That's cool. Never seen that before. Is there any other way than leaving? So there's not a way to convince a person that they're a liar. Like, if they're not willing to actually take steps to acknowledge that, like if they're not willing to get into therapy, if they're not willing to go to like Wake Up Warrior, if they're not willing to actually do something to get honest with themselves, nothing will change. You can't force it. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force them to drink. And if you could force them to drink, it'd still be illegal because you drown the horse. So at the end of the day, the easiest way is to leave. That's the thing. A lot of people don't like hearing that, but they're like, but I want to help them. It's not your job to parent them. It's not your job to lead them. It's your job to lead yourself. And if that person is unwilling to rise and to grow with you, then they should be left in the dust. Regardless of any aspect of empathy or sympathy, I'm here to tell you, like, if the person is not willing to show up honest and vulnerable, he's in therapy, but he's lying in therapy. Okay, so that means you leave. Okay, because he's saying he's trying to do the work, but he's lying in therapy. He's just bullshitting the therapist. So, like, you're in a relationship that doesn't even exist. Like, you're in a dead-end relationship, because if you do not have honesty, you have no foundation for any growth. Brought his new supply to my place of work and walked around holding hands. Yeah, just to trigger you. Would you recommend being honest about how their silence is painful, or is it best to go no contact? If you're in the relationship and they're using the silence to control you and they're not open to hearing you, then no, I would just go no contact. What do they think about their secondary supply? Same as their first supply. It's another toaster to be able to give them toast, and they keep moving through life. They don't really care. Like people get too hung up on like, I'm primary supply, I'm secondary supply. No, like it's not like that. Narcissist looks at you and your supply, period. If you're the first, second, third, fourth, sixth, like 10th, it doesn't really matter. You're just supply. Like there's not an elevated status of like, I'm just the second one. No, like you're still being used, probably just a booty call. If they're threatening to post smear campaign on social media, do you recommend proactive, contact legal, or wait till libel happens? Maybe they want to see panic with MP threats. Depending on like how it's going down, you could contact legal to like start that process. And then once they put it up there, then you could go for it. At the end of the day, they're probably just wanting to trigger you. The best defense on a smear campaign is to ignore it completely. Just completely ignore it. They want a reaction. They want a response. So even filing would be a reaction, would be a response that tells them, I still got the upper hand. Okay. He actually says, just know anyone I'm with will know I want my family back in the end. Yeah, well, he could have proved that by showing up as a man to start off with. What about the anxiety of being wrong for leaving? So a lot of that goes back to the story you're telling yourself, and also the mindset, the thought process of like, hey, what actually happened to the relationship? You have to ground yourself based on the facts, the truth that happened in the relationship, not your body and your mind and your emotions trying to run away from the abusive piece. She said she was kidding around. My narcissist had a knife on her throat while I was asleep. Oh, instead kidding around. Yeah, that's not kidding. That's scary. How are narcissists able to be around a new supply 24/7 for months without getting bored or drained by bad company? They obviously don't want to be there. Bored or drained by bad company. So the new supply is bad company. There's an aspect of like control or dynamic. How can you tell the difference between true vulnerability and narcissist actions when they lied in the past for so long and you believed how they were genuine, later found out otherwise? So it'd be like, how are they actually setting up honesty and transparency now? How are they building that trust? Vulnerability for a narcissist, a lot of times they want to talk vulnerability in the past. I was abused in the past. This happened to me in the past. All of a sudden, this is my childhood trauma in the past. All the past stuff to be able to promote sympathy. But being vulnerable, well, what's actually going on now? Like what they're actually feeling, experiencing. Like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. That kind of aspect. Does trauma bond feel like addiction? 100%. So a lot of what we deal with is trying to help you rewire the thought process to get you away from that addictive piece. Hope and potential, cognitive dissonance, intermittent reinforcement. That's the addiction cocktail of the trauma bond. Until we break the mindset, you'll still be stuck for a long period of time. Do they know that they will abuse you in the future? It's not necessarily on all narcissists like plan, like, I'm going to get with this person and I'm going to abuse them in the future. That'd be more of a psychopath, sociopath. But narcissist still goes down that road just automatically. How to protect your kids from building a trauma bond with the narcissist and co-parenting. Be there for them emotionally. Look up she's on Instagram, the Considerate Mama, how to actually help parent. She's not dealing with narcissist relationship, but how to help parent respectfully with your kids, of engaging with their emotions. They won't get on the other side. You should talk about that most times NPDs don't want to intentionally hurt people. It's still a choice and they still know it's happening. Okay. So there's a piece of like, I don't want to intentionally hurt you, but I'm also not going to intentionally not hurt you. Big difference. So be careful when we bring up the intentionality the conversation. We can go back and forth on that all day. Do narcissists feel glimpses of realization and empathy? Kindly answer. Thank you. You are welcome. I would say like empathy, that's a whole nother ball game. As far as like glimpses of realization, there's times that happens, but it quickly reverts or overrides if they're not willing to actually deal with it. He's in a shame spiral, disappear. Can you repeat the addiction cocktail, the 3, hope and potential, which also leads to like a possibility, maybe. That's like part of the addiction piece. Cognitive dissonance, and then intermittent reinforcement. That's all like the trauma bond related. When narcissist is hurting you, what do they expect you to react like? What stops them from violence? A lot of times it'll keep progressing into violence, and it makes sense logically. Like narcissistic, sociopathic, like moving into that aspect, it makes sense logically for a lot of narcissists to become violent. You're like, whoa, that sounds like bad. Yeah, no, it's not good to be violent. I'm just saying if we play it out logically, how the narcissist like works it in their mindset, they can get to the place where they're like, yeah, I'm justified for hitting you because you disrespected me. And because like it's a whole story. Okay, it's a whole other aspect.